When owners think about a supportive project, they picture themselves, the scheme, and maybe a provider. Two people who could make the whole thing smoother rarely enter the picture at all, and they are two people the business already has, the accountant and the bank. These are not just services you pay for when something goes wrong. They are relationships that can quietly de-risk a project from beginning to end, if you involve them at the right moments and in the right way. Most businesses discover this backwards, calling the accountant in a panic at the end and never talking to the bank until they are short of cash, when a little foresight would have made everything calmer. So in the next few minutes, we are going to look at how to work with these two allies around the project, so they strengthen your position instead of cleaning up after it. One note before we begin, this channel is educational only. We are not a government agency, we are not affiliated with or endorsed by Go Business, Enterprise Singapore, or any government body, and nothing here is official advice, and none of this is financial advice either. We name no schemes, no criteria, and no figures, because those change over time. So we will always point you back to the official source, gobusiness.gov.sg, to confirm what actually applies to your situation before you rely on any of it. Two allies owners underuse, your accountant and your bank, are among the most underused resources a small business has, and both become especially valuable around a project. The reason they go underused is that owners think of them narrowly, the accountant as the person who does the annual numbers, the bank as the place the money sits. But both hold a wider view of your business than you might expect, and both have seen many other businesses go through the kind of thing you are contemplating. That experience is worth drawing on. A project involves money moving in unfamiliar patterns and commitments made over time, which is exactly the territory these two understand best. Treating them as allies to consult rather than services to endure changes how a project feels, because you are no longer carrying the financial side alone. The businesses that use these relationships well tend to make calmer, better informed decisions simply because they are not the only one looking at the numbers. What your accountant can see that you cannot, a good accountant sees your business from an angle you cannot, because you are inside it and they are looking at it whole, in numbers, alongside their experience of others. That vantage point lets them spot things you might miss around the project, how it sits against your real financial position, whether the timing works with the rhythms of your cash, how it interacts with the rest of your obligations, what the true cost looks like once everything is counted. They can also help you build the honest, whole budget a project deserves and sanity check the assumptions you are making, because assumptions are easier for an outsider to question than for the person who made them. None of this replaces your judgment about whether the project is right for the business, but it informs it, and an informed decision beats a hopeful one. The point of an accountant here is not to hand over the thinking, it is to see your own situation more clearly than you can alone. Bring the accountant in early. The most common mistake is bringing the accountant in at the very end, once everything is done, to help sort out the numbers for a claim. By then, the value they could have added is mostly spent, because the decisions that mattered were made months ago without them. Bring them in early instead, while the project is still an idea, when their view can shape the plan rather than merely tidy it. Early involvement lets them flag a cash flow problem before it bites, question a shaky assumption before it hardens into commitment, and set things up so that the end is easy rather than frantic. It costs little to have a conversation at the start, and it can save a great deal later. Think of the accountant not as the person who cleans up after the project, but as one of the people who helps you decide whether and how to do it, which is a far better use of what they know, the cash flow conversation with your bank. Support often arrives after you have already spent, which means a project can put real pressure on your cash even when the overall numbers are sound. And this is precisely the conversation to have with your bank early rather than late. Your bank would generally far rather hear about a coming squeeze in advance than discover it when you are already struggling, because early notice gives everyone options and late notice gives everyone problems. Talking to them before you commit lets you understand what room you have, what arrangements might smooth the timing, and whether the project fits comfortably within your finances or would stretch them uncomfortably. This is not about assuming you will need help. It is about knowing your position before you rely on it. A business that has mapped the cash timing with its bank goes into a project with its eyes open, while one that has not may find itself surprised by a gap it could easily have seen coming. Why the bank cares about your project? It can feel odd to involve your bank in a project decision, but the bank has a genuine interest in the health of the businesses it works with, and a well-planned project that strengthens your business is something it generally wants to see succeed. Beyond that practical alignment, the people at your bank have watched many businesses navigate periods of investment and change, and that pattern recognition can be quietly useful. They are not there to approve or reject your project, and it is not their decision to make, but they can help you understand the financial shape of what you are considering and whether the timing sits well with everything else. Keeping your bank informed also strengthens the relationship for the future, because a business that communicates clearly and plans ahead is one a bank comes to trust, and that trust is worth having long after this particular project is finished and forgotten. Ask before you need, not when desperate. There is a golden rule that applies to both these relationships and to money generally. Ask before you need, not when you are desperate. Help of any kind is far easier to arrange from a position of foresight than from a position of crisis, because foresight leaves options open and crisis closes them. An owner who talks to their accountant and bank while the project is still a plan is negotiating calmly, with time to consider, and is taken seriously as someone in control of their business. An owner who turns up already short, already behind, already stressed, has fewer choices and less goodwill to draw on, and everyone can feel it. So build the habit of reaching out early when you do not yet need anything, precisely so that if you later do, the relationship and the understanding are already in place. The best time to establish these conversations is before the pressure arrives, not during it. Keep everyone looking at the same numbers. A project goes wrong quietly when the people around it are working from different pictures of the money. So a simple discipline is worth adopting. Keep everyone looking at the same numbers. Your own view of the budget, your accountant's understanding, and your bank's sense of your position should all rest on the same honest figures, rather than each holding a slightly different version. This matters because contradictions surface at the worst moments, when a claim is being assembled or a cash gap appears, and untangling them then is stressful and slow. Sharing a single, honest set of figures with your advisors keeps everyone aligned and lets each of them give you advice grounded in reality rather than in a partial view. It also keeps you honest, because numbers you have shared with people who understand them are numbers you have had to think through properly, which is exactly the rigor a project budget deserves. Let your accountant keep you claim ready. One of the most practical ways an accountant helps around a supported project is in keeping you ready for the end, when you have to show what you did and spent. The habits of good record keeping and clean financial trails are their natural territory, and a short conversation about how to keep your project records tidy from the start can save enormous pain later. They can help you set things up so that project costs are easy to identify, so that the trail for each is complete, and so that assembling everything at the end is a straightforward gathering rather than a frantic reconstruction. This is help worth asking for explicitly, because an accountant will not always volunteer it if they think of themselves as arriving only at the finish. Ask them at the start how to keep things in order for later, and you turn the most stressful part of the process into something routine. Do not outsource the decision. For all their value, there is one thing your accountant and your bank cannot do for you, and should not, which is decide whether the project is right for your business. That decision belongs to you, because you are the one who understands what the business is trying to become and what it can bear, and you are the one who will live with the result. Advisors inform the decision, they do not make it, and it is a mistake to let a professional's comfort with the numbers stand in for your own judgment about whether this project actually serves your goals. Use them to see more clearly, to test your thinking, to understand the financial shape, and then decide yourself, deliberately owning the choice. A decision you handed to someone else is one you cannot fully stand behind, and around something as consequential as committing your business to a project, standing behind your choice matters. Speak plainly, not in scheme jargon. When you talk to your accountant and especially your bank about a project, resist the urge to speak in scheme jargon and describe the project plainly instead. Not everyone you talk to will be steeped in the particular language of a given form of support, and it does not matter, because what they need to understand is your business, your project, and your numbers, not the terminology. Explain what you are trying to do, what it will cost, what it will change, and how the money and timing work, in ordinary words. This plainness helps them help you, because they can only advise on what they actually understand, and it protects you too, because anything you cannot explain simply is often something you have not fully thought through. The clearest conversations around a project are the ones stripped of jargon, where everyone is talking about the real business underneath rather than the label on the support. Confirm the scheme details at the source. A necessary reminder that runs through all of this. Your accountant and your bank are valuable for understanding your business, your money, and your options. But the specifics of any support, what it is, who it is for, what it covers, and what it requires, come from the official source and change over time. Do not rely on a half-remembered detail from an advisor or on general impressions of how a scheme works. When the authoritative answer sits at gobusiness.gov.sg, use your accountant and bank for the financial and practical judgment they are genuinely good at, and use the official portal for the scheme details themselves, and keep the two roles distinct in your mind. We deliberately name no criteria and no figures here, because those are exactly the things that shift, and the official source is the only place to confirm them for your situation today. The right advisor for the numbers is not the right source for the scheme. A closing thought. So here is the relationship advice to carry away. Your accountant and your bank are two allies most owners underuse, and both become especially valuable around the project. Bring your accountant in early, while their view can shape the plan rather than just tidy the ending, and have the cash flow conversation with your bank before you need anything, rather than when you are desperate. Keep everyone looking at the same honest numbers. Ask your accountant to help keep you ready for the claim from the start, and speak to both in plain language rather than scheme jargon. But never outsource the decision itself, because that judgment is yours to own, and always confirm the actual scheme details on gobusiness.gov.sg rather than on an advisor's impression. Remember too that everything here is general and educational, not financial advice. We are not a government agency, and we are not affiliated with or endorsed by anyone. If this helped you see two allies you already have, subscribe for more plain English Singapore grant explainers, and we will keep helping you build a stronger position.